Hi friends, let me tell you a fascinating story about St. Augustine. Well, once he was walking along the shore of the sea, which I happen to love doing, and he came across this boy who had dug a hole in the sand. And what he'd do is he'd grab his little bucket, he'd walk into the water, get some water, come back and pour it into the hole. And then he'd go back and get some more, and go back and forward and back and forward. You get the idea. Well, St. Augustine was a curious fella, and as he got closer, he called out, he said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And the boy said, "Well, I'm going to take all the water from there," the whole ocean, mind you, "and I'm going to put it in there," the hole that he dug. And St. Augustine burst out laughing, of course, and he said, "Well, you can't do that. That's impossible." Then the boy stopped and he looked at him and he said, "I have more chance of taking all of that water and putting it in that small hole than you have with your mind of understanding fully the Blessed Trinity." And St. Augustine was stumped. He didn't know what to say because the boy was right. How can we understand fully this extraordinary teaching about God? Indeed, it's not about what God does. It's about who God is. That we believe in one eternal God who is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Not three gods, not three separate beings, but one God, three divine persons. This is the unity and the Trinity in God, and it is a beautiful teaching. Indeed, it's the bedrock, it's the foundation of all Christian teachings. Everything else is built on this because it's about who God is. Now, I know that it's not so fashionable, indeed popular, to talk about God. Indeed, it's quite popular now, apparently, to be an atheist, which always makes me laugh a little bit, that someone says, I'm against, I don't accept, what doesn't exist? Work that one out. Anyway, I think I can understand a little bit why it's attractive to be an atheist. It's because apparently you don't need to really listen to the voice of God in your hearts, your conscience, really. And in the end, you can make up your own moral teachings because there's no lawgiver, there's no authority. And then at the end, because there's no consequences, there's no judgment. But I like this one. Although when we die, there's no God, but everyone goes to heaven. Work that one out. But throughout the whole world, from the very beginning of time, almost everyone has understood instinctively that there's a God. We look around us and we see the wonder and the beauty of creation, the order and the design. How marvelous it is. And not just what we can see, but who we are, the human person in our bodies and our minds. It is marvelous. How could you not see that there's an author to all of this? Are we just here by chance? Is this just an accident? Just happened to be here? So we can get it, that there's a God. And this is first an act of our mind, our reason, not an act of faith. But then in the fullness of time, God sent His Son into the world, born of a woman. And Jesus Christ taught us that He is one with the Father, and that in the Holy Spirit, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, one God and three divine persons, long to come and dwell within us. And as Christians, this begins so beautifully at our baptism, the divine indwelling of the Blessed Trinity. But this teaching is a supernatural revelation, which means unless God had revealed it to us, we would never, not in a million years, have worked it out, no matter how brilliant that we are. It is something that we need divine faith to grasp, to understand, although in our limited human minds, we will never understand it fully because we will never exhaust God. Now, let's ask this question, and I love this question. What was God doing before He created everything, the universe and all that's in it, human beings? What was God doing? Well, was He by Himself? Was He lonely? Was He bored? I'll tell you the answer. From all eternity, even before creation, we know that God is love. So what was God doing? He was loving. Who was He loving? Himself. So straight away there's this hint that within God there's this plurality, although unity, that God knows and loves himself. God, in a sense, has a self-image. And when he knows himself, the image of God the Father, is his Son, Jesus Christ, the perfect image of the Father who is revealed in the flesh on this world. So God knows and loves himself. Indeed, God has a perfect self-image. And this beautiful love between the Father and the Son, because as the Father knows and loves himself, this love between Father and Son is a personal, perfect love. And that love is the Holy Spirit. For God sent his Son into the world and poured the Spirit of love into us at the same time. Now get this, have you ever been camping? Well, this is a nice place to go camping. It's a little bit cold, but that's all right. But if you're in a tent somewhere and it was late at night and you heard this strange noise, what would you ask? You turn to someone next to you and say, "What was that?" Fair enough question. What was it? But if you had a suspicion that someone was out there, you might even be a little bit more afraid then. But then you'd ask this question, who was it? The question of what was it, what is it, is about the very nature. The question of who is about the person. We ask these questions about God. What is God? The supreme, divine, all-knowing, perfect being. Who is God? Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. That the God in which we believe is personal, that he knows and loves us. And that's why at Mass we say with great reverence, "Holy, holy, holy," 3 times. And every time you make this sign of the cross, don't just shoo the flies away, be embarrassed. Take your time and get it, that we believe in God who is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. This God who came on the earth and he taught us, go and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. And we've been doing that ever since.